The big problem that connected the future of economics with immigration was discovered in 1968. It was discovered by a group of scientists and mathematicians called the Club of Rome. They got curious and started comparing the rates people were using up resources to the amount of resources there were in the world. My dad was going to college that year to be a mathematician, so he found out about their project right away. This is Danella and Dennis Meadows, who were two of the four people who were in charge of the math. Those photos were taken much later. The team of mathematicians who made the discovery of global environmental unsustainability, which is the most important discovery ever, was made up of 3 men and a woman, and it was led by the woman. And not only that, she was 27 when they started. So anyone who says that women aren't any good at science is lying. The information they had back then wasn't great, but it was good enough for them to see we had a problem. What they could see from the numbers they did have was that humanity's population worldwide and our usage of resources were both increasing at accelerating rates. That meant exponential growth. Basically, what they discovered works like this. If I give you a penny today, and 2 pennies tomorrow, and 4 pennies the next day, and so on, doubling the number every day, how much money am I going to give you at the end of a month? On the 7th day, I'm going to give you 64 cents. Let's say it's April, so there are 30 days in the month. How much money am I going to give you on the 30th day? You can do this experiment yourself on a calculator. The answer is about $5.3 million. If every man and woman had 4 children between them who grew up to be adults, that's what we were going to be doing with our population size. And that's what we are doing. It's not exactly 4 children per couple, but that's the basic idea. As long as each couple has more than 2 children, each generation is going to be bigger than the last. Exponential growth starts out slow, and then shoots right off the chart before you know it. And we're doing the same thing with our use of resources and the generation of pollution. Every year we build more factories than we did the year before. That's why you have more stuff and more complicated stuff than your parents did when they were your age. But having more stuff means using more resources and more pollution being generated in the process. The Earth is a finite size. It's 25,000 miles around. No matter how many resources there are in the world, we can't keep increasing our use of them forever. So these scientists used the numbers they had at the time and then made different guesses about how much the numbers they had were off by. Like, maybe there was twice as much oil in the world as anyone knew about at the time. No matter what numbers they tried, they kept getting the same results. Sooner or later, we were going to run out. This is a graph of what the math said. The line that starts out high on the left represents resources, and the line that starts out low on the left represents population. As time passes and you move to the right, the population increases and the resources decrease. But people need resources to live. Eventually, you pass the point where the remaining resources aren't enough to keep everyone alive anymore. So the population increases faster and faster, but then it stops and crashes. So this is a diagram of a lot of people dying when they run out of resources. And not only that, Since population growth, resource use, and pollution were happening at accelerating rates, and politicians and economists in 1968 didn't realize that, the math said we were going to run out of resources sometime in the 21st century. Either the population of the world would grow so large that we'd run out of farmland to feed everyone, or we would run out of resources so we wouldn't be able to build enough tractors and trucks and roads to grow and transport the food, or pollution would catch up with us somehow and make the environment unlivable to us, or it would be some combination of the three. Well, as it turned out, it was pollution that caught up with us first, and that's what global warming is. Something else that would happen if we started running out of resources was that our economy would break down and we would get into a really big recession that nobody would know how to get out of. As people started getting desperate for resources they needed to live, they would start fighting wars over resources, like oil, for instance. And as people stopped being able to get the things they needed to live in some parts of the world, they would start trying to move into places where they could still get the things they needed. So there would be a lot of immigration. So the Club of Rome wrote a book about their discoveries to try to warn everyone about that, called The Limits to Growth. They've updated it twice since then. So book number 1 is The Limits to Growth, the 30-year update. This connects math with the environment and economics. They explain the whole story in that one book, so you don't need to read the earlier books to understand it. They teach you about exponents in like 5th grade, right? Well, this is just exponents applied to the environment, economics, and politics.